sure that they are successful. I'm grateful for your leadership, Noble, and for what you're doing in our community and in Tennessee. I know that members of the General Assembly have been recognized. Senator Reeves, Senator White, Representative Sparks, Representative Rudd, Representative Stevens. But I've got to call them out individually again, because while we oftentimes talk about $1 billion funding for our public school systems, or billions of dollars in transportation, or frankly for charter schools in the last 3-4 years, about $100 million worth of funding, that funding is made possible because of the men and women of the General Assembly who approve the governor's budget every year. So I want to thank you again, not only for your commitment to school choice and to educational outcomes for children in this state, but for putting the dollars behind it to make sure that we can continue to move our education system, our broad, full education system forward. So a lot of you all have probably heard me tell this story, but I'm going to tell it again because it reminds me why we're standing here and why this is so important to me. Probably 12 or 14 years ago, long before I ever thought about this job, I was involved in an inner city at-risk youth program, and I met a young man one day at a lunch whose mom was in prison and father he didn't know his dad, and he lived with his grandmother who had a lot of challenges, and I decided to become engaged with this young man in a bigger way. Went home, told my wife and my daughter, my last kid at home, that I was going to spend an evening a week with this young man, so I did for 5 years. Every week. Drove into his very troubled neighborhood, picked him up, took him out for a couple hours, and frankly, I thought I was going to be mentoring him, and what happened is he taught me an awful lot about life. My engagement with him, the more I got to know, the more I understood the struggles he was having in school. He was failing every single subject. The school he was attending just wasn't the right fit for him. So I questioned around, talked to his grandmother, and looked at options. We decided to place him in a charter school. Or she decided to. And I helped her look around at where the right place was, and I saw that child's trajectory change, his life change, and probably his future and the next generations of his family's life change, because he found the right path for his own giftings in his own life. That was many years ago. I did not even know what a charter school was when I reached out to look for options for this young man. And it wasn't so much about the charter school as it was my realization and personal interaction with a kid who found the right pick for them, and it worked for them. That created within me a passion for options for children's education that would serve each child and each family individually. That's the reason that I believe so strongly in parents' choices of education. That's the reason I'm so grateful for options like Rutherford Collegiate Prep for children in this community. We've invested heavily in all types of education. My children were homeschooled and went to public school and went to private school, because at different times in their life there were different needs for each one. And when we can provide that kind of an environment for parents and children, and we're going to raise the level of our entire education system across Tennessee. And that's what we're focused on doing. When I ran for governor, I said every person wants a good job and a good school for their kid and a safe neighborhood. And those are the things that we should continue to be working on. And I think what we're doing right here today is one step forward in expanding the ability for kids in Tennessee to go to a good school in their neighborhood that they believe is right for their family. So thank you for leadership in this community. This wouldn't happen You know, we oftentimes talk about what happens in the Capitol and what gets passed in legislation and what goes on in the governor's budget, but the real work is done in the communities across this great state. We're leading the country in many ways because of what's happening in communities and the way that people of Tennessee step up and lead in their own communities to make sure that their towns and their counties are leading the state as we lead the country. This is obviously a very robust community that has a lot of things going on. Mayor, council, school board, you all are doing a lot of things right, you know it. And I think what's happening here right now is one more right thing to do for Rutherford County to keep it moving forward as a leading community in this country. So thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak a few words. And thank you all for being here.